Certain combinations of flavors just work. When it comes to Chinese food, you might usually think about something like soy sauce, ginger, and scallion. Or maybe if you're a Sichuan food enthusiast, your mind might go to chili, huajiao, and MSG. But what much of the world knows about the flavors of China is really just barely scratching the surface. So here, we also like sharing less internationally famous combos, such as Guangxi's addictive mix of doucher, fermented bamboo shoots, pickled chilies, and garlic. And so today, we similarly wanted to share another lesser known flavor profile from the Henan province, a homestyle classic of tomato, garlic, and basil. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This isn't one of our Western food in China videos. This is actually totally a case of culinary convergent evolution. Because these noodles are smothered with stewed tomato and eggs, a classic northern Chinese noodle topping you see in a lot of places, garlic water, something that you see again and again in Chinese mixed noodle dishes, and interestingly, lemon basil, an ingredient that in China is very local to the Henan province. This will not be available at your local general Chinese supermarket. If you are able to find it, it'd probably be at a Southeast Asian grocer. Sometimes the stuff is called lao basil. In Thai, it's called mang lak. In Indonesian, kemangi. That said, we did also try testing this recipe using Thai basil as well, which was also delicious. And I'm sure sweet basil would also taste great too. Either way, the core thing in this recipe are those stewed tomato and eggs. They're super easy. To make them, first core 2 tomatoes, and then dice them into about half-inch chunks, and then reserve them into a bowl. Then, separate bowl, crack 2 eggs, season them with an 1/8 teaspoon each salt and white pepper, and then thoroughly whisk those until foamy and no stray strands of egg white remain, a bit like this, and then set them aside. Then, to fry those, first just toss 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil to a hot wok, and then give it a good swirl. With your flame on maximum now, add in the now beaten eggs and let those quickly puff and set. Pull the cook bits to the side of the wok to let the egg cook evenly. And then once there's no more liquid remaining, give that a quick scramble and then take it out. Then same wok, no need to wash. Now toss in another tablespoon of oil, and this time over a medium-low flame, toss in a clove's worth of minced garlic and a half-inch worth of minced ginger. Fry those until they're fragrant, about 30 seconds. Then toss in your tomato chunks and start to fry. We'll be looking for a tomato to begin to break down, and we like expediting that process a bit by going at it with a spatula. And after about 3 minutes, you should be looking at something a bit like this. Swirl in a teaspoon of liaojiu, aka Shaoxing wine, give it a mix, then another teaspoon of soy sauce in the same manner. Then go in with 1 cup of water. Bring that all to a light boil, cover with a loose lid, and let it bubble away. After about 10 minutes, our liquid should have been evaporated by about 1/3. So then now just season that with a 1/4 teaspoon each salt and MSG, and then add back in your egg. Give that a good final mix, and then reserve. Then, thing to prepare number 2, the garlic water. To make it, also super simple, to a mortar, just toss in 3 cloves of garlic, together with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then just pound that until it's pasty. Then toss in 6 tablespoons of water, and then with that, just scrape it and pour it into a bowl. Then we'll further season it with a 1/4 teaspoon of 5-spice powder, 1/4 teaspoon MSG, a teaspoon each of soy sauce and dark Chinese vinegar, and then just mix those well. Finish with a 1/2 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, and then your garlic water is also ready. And then finally, the very last bit then is, of course, some noodles. Now, for this, if you were an experienced Henanese auntie, you would probably already know how to pump out fresh homemade noodles in no time flat. Noodle making is something in the North that's an everyday occurrence, as culturally automatic as something like tortilla making in Mexico or maybe baking in North America. For you, you can use some dried noodles here too. They totally taste good as well, so do feel free to use your favorite noodle. That said, for us today, we'll be whipping up some fresh noodles, and this is how Steph's found that she likes to pump hers out. So, 200 grams of flour, 2 grams of salt, give that a mix, and then slowly drizzle in 90 grams of cool water. Mix that into shaggy bits like so. Then smush it all into a ball and let it rest for 45 minutes. And after that time, the kind of weird, totally not Henan thing that Steph likes to do for her noodles is then knead this with her feet. To do so, just toss that into a sturdy plastic bag. Step on it until it forms into a sheet, fold it in one direction and then the other to get it into a square, then toss that in again and repeat. This is actually a Japanese technique, sometimes employed in udon making, but we found that it's actually the easiest way for us at home to knead a dry noodle dough. So just repeat that process 8 times, fold it back into a rectangle, and rest it for another 30 minutes. And then after that time, take out the dough, roll it into a large rectangle, large enough it's starting to exceed your work surface. Then take one side, wrap it around your rolling pin, and start rolling it around your pin. The idea here is to allow us to evenly apply pressure to the entire dough to thin the whole thing out, a bit like rolling through a pasta maker. Just dust the dough in between wrappings, and once it's reached a width of about 2 millimeters, dust it again, fold it into layers to make it easier to cut, and slice into about 1 centimeter wide noodles. And then to boil those, just toss them into a wok of bubbling water. And once the water's reached a boil once again, toss in about a half cup of cool water. Then, once we've returned to a boil, remove and dip into ice water until you're ready to serve. And then to serve, to 1 serving of noodles, just toss in half or about a cup of your stewed tomato and eggs, a similar half or 3 tablespoons of your garlic water, a small handful of sliced cucumber, a tablespoon of toasted, fried, or roasted peanuts, and a generous handful of your basil of choice. And then with that, your basil noodles are done. Just mix well and devour immediately.
So there are a couple general approaches to the garlic water. We add soy sauce and vinegar to ours. Some people skip that and just do salt and MSG and toasted sesame oil. But there's another approach which is very interesting, is that people will pound some spearmint, 十香菜, into their garlic water, and that's pretty tasty as well. So right, check out the recipe in the description box. A big thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon, and of course, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos.